Hold on, we're getting you out of here.
It's so cold. Is she going to be okay?
She will.
She's already running when the story begins. Not walking. Not hesitating. Running, hard, desperate, breath tearing from her lungs as the frozen ravine stretches out like a wound beneath a broken moon. Aelira's boots slip on ice-slick stone, her muscles screaming as she forces her body to keep moving. Every breath burns. Every heartbeat feels too loud, like it might give her away. The moon above her is fractured by storm clouds, jagged light cutting through swirling snow. It doesn't guide her. It watches her. A sharp whistle slices the air. She ducks just in time. A silver-tipped arrow slams into the rock beside her head, sparks flashing where metal bites stone. Another follows. Then another. Too close. Always too close. The hunters are getting smarter. Faster. Hungrier. Blood stains the snow behind her, a dark, spreading trail she can't stop leaving no matter how hard she presses her hand to her thigh. Her leg trembles with every step. The pain is deep now, poisonous. Silver poison. She can feel it crawling through her veins, cold and burning at the same time, like ice wrapped in fire. She clenches her teeth and keeps running. The storm howls louder, wind tearing through the ravine, screaming around her ears like voices she knows too well. Accusations. Fear. The echo of pack elders who once stood in a circle and decided she was too dangerous to keep alive. Too wrong. Too much. The wind sounds just like them. Her foot catches. She stumbles, barely catching herself on the ravine wall. Pain explodes up her side, white and blinding. She almost screams. Almost. Instead, she swallows it down and forces her legs to move again. Behind her, howls rise. Not the clean, familiar sound of wolves calling to one another. These are twisted. Warped. Mixed with something darker. Something that doesn't belong to the forest at all. Wolves, and something worse. Her chest tightens with panic. She can feel them now. Their hunger. Their certainty. They think she's already dead. They think it's only a matter of time. Aelira's thoughts fracture, jumping between terror and fury. Not now, she thinks, breath hitching as her vision blurs. Not when it's waking. Her fingers dig into her coat, as a sudden heat flares beneath her skin. Not normal warmth. This is sharp. Violent. Silver hot. It pulses through her chest, down her arms, lighting up her veins like fire under glass. She gasps, stumbling again, as the power surges without permission. No. Not here. Not like this. She doesn't control it. She never has. And every time it answers her fear instead of her will, it costs her something. Control. Time. Safety. Another arrow screams past, close enough that she feels the wind of it brush her hair. She veers sharply, forcing her body toward a cluster of jagged stone rising from the ravine floor like broken teeth. Her vision tunnels. The storm fades into a dull roar. Her leg finally gives out. Aelira crashes to her knees, then forward, hands scraping against ice, as she drags herself behind the rocks. Her shoulder slams hard. The impact knocks the air from her lungs, leaving her choking, shaking, half buried in snow and shadow. She presses herself flat, trembling, every nerve alive with pain. Footsteps crunch closer. Voices murmur, low, confident, cruel. She's bleeding. She won't make it far. Aelira clamps a hand over her mouth to stop the sound clawing its way out of her throat. Her heart pounds so hard she's sure they can hear it. The silver poison pulses again, cold and sharp, spreading deeper. The heat beneath her skin flares in answer, wild and unstable, like it's angry she's afraid. She squeezes her eyes shut. Please. Just a little longer. Snow drifts down onto her lashes. The moonlight shifts, casting her hiding place in flickering shadow. For one fragile second, the world holds its breath. And if you can feel this moment, if you feel the chase in your chest, the fear in your bones, the fire waiting to break free, then stay with this story. Subscribe now to Moonbound Werewolf Romance Stories. Because this night doesn't slow down. And neither does destiny. Aelira's fingers curl into the snow. The hunters are too close now. The power inside her surges again, hotter, louder, no longer content to sleep. And somewhere in the storm, unseen and unheard, something ancient begins to pay attention. The storm shifts. Not louder. Not softer. Just, aware. A shadow steps out of the white chaos, solid and still against the tearing wind, and the hunters freeze like animals that suddenly remember what fear feels like. Snow curls around his boots, but never quite touches him, as if the night itself knows better. He doesn't shift. He doesn't run. He doesn't raise a weapon. He simply stands there, tall and unmoving, shoulders squared beneath a dark coat dusted with frost. Power rolls off him in slow, controlled waves, the kind that doesn't need to prove itself. The kind that has already won battles no one sings about. Kael Dravenfell. Alpha of the Obsidian Claw. Aelira feels his presence before she hears his voice. It presses against her chest, heavy and grounding, cutting through panic like a blade through fog. Her pulse stutters. The silver heat inside her recoils, then leans forward, curious despite her fear. Kael's gaze finds her instantly, sharp and unflinching. He doesn't look surprised. He looks certain. Aelira, he says. Just her name. Nothing more. Quiet. Even gentle. It lands like a promise, or a sentence. The hunters hesitate. One of them takes a half step back, boots scraping against ice. Another tightens his grip on a silver spear, jaw clenched, eyes darting between Kael and the wounded woman hidden behind stone. This doesn't concern you, Alpha, someone says, trying and failing to sound brave. She's marked. Kael finally moves. One step forward. Then another. The wind bends around him. The storm listens. She is not prey, he says calmly. The first hunter lunges. Kael doesn't shout. He doesn't transform. He meets the attack head-on with terrifying precision, bone cracking under his fist, breath knocked clean from lungs. Another comes at him from the side. Kael pivots, grabs, throws. Bodies hit the ground hard, sliding across ice like discarded tools. It's over almost before Aelira can track it. A third hunter tries to run. Kael lets him. He catches the man by the collar at the ravine's edge, lifts him just enough for their eyes to meet. His voice drops, low and lethal. Tell them, Kael says, releasing him with a shove, she's not prey anymore. The hunter stumbles away, terror breaking through his bravado, as he disappears into the storm. Silence rushes in, thick and ringing. Kael turns back to her. Aelira bares her teeth instinctively, a low growl scraping her throat. She doesn't thank him. Gratitude has always been the first chain they try to slip around her neck. Her fingers twitch near the knife hidden at her side, though she knows how useless it would be against someone like him. Their eyes lock. Fear flares first, hers sharp and immediate. Then something else follows. Recognition. Not of a face, but of weight. Of gravity. Like standing too close to the edge of something deep, and knowing it would change you if you fell. Cale's expression doesn't soften. But it shifts. A fraction. Enough to tell her he sees the blood soaking into the snow. The way she's shaking. The way she's holding herself together by sheer stubbornness. He reaches into his coat and pulls free his cloak. Dark. Heavy. Lined with warmth. Take it, he says. No, she snaps, even as her vision tilts. Pride flares hot and useless. She will not owe him. Will not be carried like something broken. Cale doesn't argue. He simply waits, eyes steady, as if he already knows how this ends. Her leg gives out before she can take another breath. The world lurches. Snow rushes up. She would have hit the ground hard if he hadn't moved, fast this time, too fast to track. One moment she's falling, the next she's caught, her weight pressed against his chest, her breath knocking out against something solid and warm. She stiffens, fighting the instinct to push away. His arm is firm around her back, careful of her wound. Too careful for a man who just broke bones without hesitation. The contrast rattles her. Cale drapes the cloak around her shoulders anyway, his fingers brushing her skin. Heat sinks in immediately, chasing away the edge of the cold. She hates how good it feels. Easy, he murmurs, not as an order, but a request. Her knees tremble. She hates that too. For a second, just one, she lets herself lean into him. The silver poison pulses. The fire beneath her skin stirs again, reacting to his nearness, restless and alert. Cale feels it. She knows he does. His jaw tightens. His hold steadies. What are you? She asks hoarsely. Something dark flickers behind his eyes. Not anger. Not pride. Burden. Someone who's been looking for you longer than you realize, he says. The storm begins to close in again, snow falling thicker, heavier. And Aelira understands, with a sudden, unsettling clarity, that being found might be more dangerous than being hunted. Cale moves her out of the open ravine without a word, guiding her into the shelter of a narrow rock overhang where the wind can't reach as easily. The storm still rages outside, but here it sounds distant, muffled, like the world has pulled back to give them space. He lowers her carefully to the ground, slow enough that her injured leg doesn't scream again. She watches his hands as he kneels in front of her. Strong hands. Steady. Used to violence, but practiced in restraint. He cuts away the torn fabric around her thigh with a blade that flashes once and disappears. Blood darkens his gloves immediately. The sight makes her stomach twist, not from fear of him, but from memory. The moment his fingers brush her skin, the past crashes in. She is 16 again. Standing in the center of the pack clearing under a full moon that should have been hers. Her first shift is supposed to be messy, bright, ordinary. Instead, pain rips through her bones like lightning, and when she screams, it isn't moonlight that answers. It's silver fire. Flames tear out of her skin, bright and wrong and alive. The ground blackens beneath her feet. Wolves recoil, howling, shielding their eyes. Someone shouts her name in terror. Someone else screams for chains. Holy metal bites into her wrists. Burns worse than claws. Worse than betrayal. She remembers the elders' faces most of all. Not anger. Not hatred. Fear. A blasphemy, one of them says, voice shaking. Fang and flame were never meant to mix. She doesn't fight when they cast her out. She's too numb. Too broken by the way her mother won't meet her eyes. By the way, the pack turns its back as one. Exile comes fast after that. Hunted comes later. Back in the present, Aelira's breath stutters as Kale presses a cloth to her wound. The silver poison resists him, hissing faintly against his touch. His brow furrows, but he doesn't pull away. "You've been carrying this a long time," he says quietly. She laughs once, sharp and hollow. "You have no idea." The words spill out before she can stop them. Maybe it's the blood loss. Maybe it's the way he listens, like he's bracing himself for the truth instead of waiting to judge it. "They didn't just exile me," she says. "They erased me. Told the packs I was dead. Told the covens I was a warning." Kale's hands still. Not with shock. With care. She swallows and keeps going. "The stories followed me anyway. Fragments. Whispers about a girl who burns silver and survives it. About balance. About endings." Her mouth twists. "Funny thing about prophecies. Everyone hears the part where they get hurt. No one listens to why." She looks at him then, really looks, and lets him see the thing she never names. "I stole consecrated silver from a vampire stronghold," she says. The words hang between them, heavy and dangerous. "For the vampire king himself." Kale's jaw tightens. A flicker of something sharp crosses his eyes. Not disgust. Not fear. Calculation. "Why?" he asks. Aelira exhales slowly. This is the part that always ends conversations. The part that turns allies into executioners. "Because it doesn't kill me," she says. "Silver doesn't burn me the way it burns others." Her voice drops. "Honest? There? It answers me." She expects him to recoil. To reach for a weapon. To look at her the way everyone else eventually does. He doesn't. He finishes binding her wound, firm and precise, then sits back on his heels. Snowmelt drips somewhere in the dark. The storm breathes around them. "And the Vampire King?" Kale asks. "He knows what I am," she says. "Or at least, what I might become." Silence stretches. Long enough for her nerves to fray. She hates that she wants him to say something. Anything. Instead, Kale just nods once, slow and thoughtful, as if fitting pieces together that have been haunting him for years. "I've heard the stories," he admits. "Always thought they were meant to scare pups into obedience." His gaze lifts to hers, steady and searching. "I don't think you're a story." Something in her chest aches at that. Sharp. Dangerous. He doesn't promise safety. He doesn't swear loyalty. He simply stays, kneeling in the cold with her blood on his hands, as if her truth hasn't changed the ground beneath his feet. That unsettles her more than fear ever could. Outside, the storm shifts again, restless. And Aelira realizes that for the first time since she was 16. Someone has heard who she really is, and hasn't run. They travel until the storm thins, and the night grows strangely quiet. Not peaceful. Watchful. The land changes first. The trees pull back, trunks bending away from a clearing carved into black stone. Snow refuses to settle here. The ground is bare, etched with grooves that catch moonlight and hold it like memory. Even the wind seems reluctant to cross the threshold. Aelira feels it before she sees it. Her steps slow. Her pulse deepens. The silver heat inside her stirs, no longer frantic, but alert, like something ancient lifting its head after a long sleep. This place, her voice trails off. Kale doesn't urge her forward. He doesn't need to. The Moon Shrine, he says quietly. Built before packs had names. Before bloodlines mattered. They stand at the edge of it, the stones rising in a broken circle around a shallow basin cut into the earth. The moon hangs directly overhead, full and heavy, its light pouring down, as if the sky itself has chosen this place. Aelira steps inside. The moment her foot crosses the boundary, the world exhales. Silver runes ignite beneath her boots, lines flaring to life one by one, spiraling outward like veins. Flame-etched claw marks burn along the standing stones, glowing faintly, answering something in her blood. The air thickens, humming low, deep enough to feel in her bones. She staggers. Not from weakness. From knowing. Images crash into her mind without warning. Wolves kneeling in ash-stained snow, their heads bowed not in submission, but in awe. Cities rising, then burning, their towers collapsing in slow, terrible beauty. A crown splitting down the center, not shattered by force, but torn apart by choice. She gasps, clutching her chest. The silver fire inside her roars to life, not wild this time, but focused, sharp as breath held before a scream. A voice moves through the shrine. Not loud. Not distant. Inside her. Child of the silver flame, it whispers. Bearer of balance. Aelira drops to one knee, the words pressing into her like weight. Her hands dig into the stone, grounding herself as the vision fractures and reforms again and again. Power and ruin. Mercy and fire. Always both. No, she breathes. That's not. Kale is at her side in an instant, steadying her without crossing fully into the circle. He feels it too. The pressure. The way the shrine bends around her presence like it's been waiting centuries for this moment. He speaks when the vision finally releases her, voice low, reverent despite himself. There was a prophecy, he says. Before the packs agreed to forget. Aelira looks up at him, eyes bright with unshed fury, and something dangerously close to fear. Say it, she dares him. Kale doesn't look away. They called her the one who walks between, he says. Silver and shadow. Fang and flame. A force meant to end the war between Nightborn and Moonbound, or finish it. Her laugh cuts sharp through the charged air. You mean the monster who burns everything until there's nothing left. That's how they rewrote it, he says. After. She pushes herself to her feet, shaking her head hard, as if she can dislodge the weight settling into her spine. Prophecies are just excuses, she snaps. Pretty stories people use to justify killing girls like me before we get the chance to prove them wrong. The runes beneath her feet pulse in response, brightening. Kale's voice softens. They erased it because it scared them. Wolves and vampires both. Balance means no one gets to rule unchecked. Aelira turns slowly, taking in the shrine with new eyes. The scars carved into stone. The claw marks burned so deep they've survived centuries. This place wasn't built to worship power. It was built to contain it. Her stomach twists. So what, she says quietly, I'm supposed to fix what they broke. The ghost voice stirs again, faint but insistent, like embers breathing. Not fix. Choose. She swallows hard. Her hands tremble, not from pain, but from the weight of possibility pressing down on her shoulders. She has spent her life running from names others tried to force on her. Weapon. Curse. Abomination. Destiny feels worse. Kale watches her, conflict etched into every line of his face. I don't know what this makes you, he admits. But I know this place wouldn't answer just anyone. Aelira steps back, out of the circle. The runes dim. The shrine falls silent again, as if holding its breath. I don't want to be chosen, she says, voice raw. I just want to survive. Kale nods slowly. Sometimes, he says, those are the same thing. Above them, the moon slides behind a veil of cloud. And somewhere deep beneath the stone, something ancient stirs, awake now, and waiting to see what she will become. The first howl cuts through the shrine like a blade. Not distant. Not warning. Close. Aelira feels it in her spine before Kale turns, every instinct she owns snapping tight. The stones beneath their feet tremble, the faint glow of the runes flickering like dying embers. The silence that had wrapped the shrine shatters, replaced by the unmistakable sound of bodies moving fast through the dark. We are not alone, she says. Kale's jaw tightens. No. They don't have time to leave. Figures spill into the clearing from every side, wolves first, shifting mid-stride, fur bristling, eyes lit with fury and fear. Alphas. She can tell by the way they move, by the weight of authority in their stances. Power recognizes power, even when it's hostile. Then the air changes again. Cold. Sharp. Controlled. Vampires step out from the shadows between the stones, cloaks unmoving despite the wind, eyes glowing faintly red. Their presence drains warmth from the night, from the ground, from her skin. Aelira's chest tightens. Of course they came. This shrine is sealed ground, one of the rival alphas snarls, stepping forward. And you dare bring her here? Kale moves instinctively, placing himself half a step in front of Aelira. Not shielding her completely. Just enough to make a statement. She crossed the boundary, another alpha says, voice shaking with anger. You felt it. We all did. The vampire envoy smiles thinly, gaze sliding past Kale to land on her. And she belongs to us. The words land heavy. She stole from the king, the envoy continues calmly. Silver sanctified by blood and oath. That debt must be paid. Aelira feels every eye turn toward her. Judgment sharpens the air, thick and suffocating. The silver fire inside her stirs, responding to threat, to fear, to the echo of the shrine still humming faintly in her bones. She doesn't belong to us, one alpha says flatly, and the others murmur agreement. And she sure as hell doesn't belong here. The sentence hits harder than claws. Not ours. Never ours. Kale's shoulders stiffen. She's injured, he says. And under my protection. A ripple of disbelief moves through the wolves. Protection, another alpha scoffs. You'd risk war for her. The vampire envoy tilts his head. Choose carefully, Alpha Dravenfell. The king is patient, but not forgiving. The clearing tightens around them. Lines are drawn with bodies and breath. Aelira feels it then, the moment stretching thin, fragile as ice before it cracks. This is it. This is where he decides. She looks at Kale's profile, the hard line of his jaw, the conflict flickering behind his eyes. She doesn't miss the hesitation. It's brief. Barely there. But she feels it. Hope flares and dies just as fast. Something in her chest folds inward, quiet and final. Before anyone can speak again, she steps back. Kale's head snaps toward her. Aelira. No, she says softly. The word isn't angry. It isn't pleading. It's done. She meets his gaze one last time, letting him see the truth he hesitated to choose. The silver fire settles, cold and focused, no longer reaching for him. I won't be the reason you burn your world, she says. The shrine answers her movement with a low hum, as she retreats toward the shadows at its edge. No one stops her. Not the wolves, not the vampires. Not Kale. The hurt is sharp, but clean. Cleaner than begging. Cleaner than waiting to be decided over like territory. She turns away. The darkness opens for her like it always has. As she slips into it, her voice carries back, steady despite the fracture inside her. I will never beg for my place again. Then she's gone. The shrine falls silent. Kale stands frozen, the weight of what he didn't say pressing down harder than any threat. Around him, the world shifts, alliances cracking, teeth baring, war inching closer. And far from the clearing, moving fast through snow and shadow, Aelira runs again, not hunted this time, but resolved. Whatever destiny thinks it has planned for her, it will learn one thing tonight. She chooses herself. The cave is hidden deep in the spine of the mountain, where moonlight slips in through a narrow crack in the stone and turns the air pale and blue. Firelight flickers low against the walls, warm but restrained, as if it knows better than to burn too bright here. Aelira sits close to the flame, knees drawn in, cloak wrapped tight around her shoulders. The wound in her leg has begun to close, but the ache remains, a steady reminder that running always leaves a mark. Outside, the world is quiet in a way that feels temporary. Like a breath held too long. She senses him before she hears him. Not his footsteps. His presence. Her spine stiffens. Her hand moves toward the knife at her side, then stops when Kale steps into the mouth of the cave. Outlined in moonlight and shadow. He doesn't rush her. Doesn't speak right away. He just stands there, letting the silence stretch, giving her space to decide whether she'll bolt or stay. You followed me, she says finally. Yes. No excuses. No denial. She stares into the fire. You shouldn't have. I know. That earns him a glance. His expression is stripped of command now. No alpha in it. Just a man who looks like he hasn't slept in days. He moves closer, slow and deliberate, then lowers himself across from her. The fire pops softly between them. I didn't stop you, he says. At the shrine. Her jaw tightens. I noticed. I was trying to stop a war. And I was trying to stop myself from breaking, she replies quietly. We both chose. The words sit heavy, but neither of them pulls away from them. Kale exhales, long and controlled. I was raised to destroy anything like you. Her eyes lift sharply. Anything that burns silver, he continues. Anything that blurs lines meant to stay clean. I was taught that hesitation gets people killed. That mercy invites ruin. The firelight catches the scar at his collarbone, pale against his skin. Old? Deep? And now, she asks. Now I hesitate, he says. And it terrifies me. Something in her chest shifts. Not soft. Not safe. Real. She swallows. The silver, it sings louder every day, she admits. Not like pain. Like a call. Like it's reminding me I can't keep pretending I'm just passing through this world. Kale's gaze drops to her hands, clenched tight in the fabric of her cloak. Does it want you to burn? I don't know, she says. I just know it doesn't want me small. Silence stretches again, but it's different now. Charged. Intimate. Their breaths fall into the same rhythm, without either of them noticing. Kale reaches out, slow enough that she could stop him. His fingers brush hers, tentative. She doesn't pull away. The contact sends a shock through both of them. Her pulse spikes. His breath catches. They lean in without deciding to. Close enough that she can feel the warmth of him, the steady strength beneath it. Close enough that the world narrows to the space between their mouths. For a moment, everything hangs there. If he kisses her, there's no pretending this is just survival anymore. If she lets him, she risks wanting something she can't keep. Their foreheads almost touch. Her breath ghosts across his lips. Cale stops. Not because he doesn't want to. Because he wants her to choose. I see you, he whispers. Not the weapon. Not the prophecy. You? The words undo her more than any touch could. She closes her eyes, pressing her forehead lightly to his, just for a second. Just enough to feel grounded. Just enough to feel real. When she pulls back, her voice is steady, but her heart is not. Then don't ask me to disappear again. I won't, he says. And this time, there's no hesitation. Outside, the moon slides higher, watching from a distance. Neither of them sees the shadows shifting beyond the mountain. Neither of them knows how little time this fragile piece has left. The night breaks wrong. It doesn't creep in or soften at the edges. It fractures, ripped open by a presence that turns the air brittle and sharp. Aelira feels it first, the silver inside her flaring like a struck bell. The fire recoils, then surges, frantic and warning. Cale is already on his feet. Stay behind me, he says. The cave darkens as shadows pour inward, stretching long and unnatural across stone. The fire gutters, shrinking low, as if starved of breath. Then the temperature drops, fast, merciless. He steps out of the darkness like he owns it. The Vampire King does not need an introduction. His crown is subtle, bone and black metal fused into something elegant and cruel. His eyes are ancient, red dimmed to embers by patience. When he smiles, it isn't wide. It's knowing. Aelira, he says, voice smooth as spilled wine. You've run beautifully. Her blood goes cold. Cale bares his teeth. You don't get to say her name. The Vampire King's gaze flicks to him, amused. And you don't get to rewrite bargains you don't understand, Alpha. Figures emerge behind him, wolves this time, not vampires. Elders. Council members. Faces Aelira recognizes from stories whispered in fear. They ring the cave's mouth, blocking escape with quiet precision. The trap snaps shut. You promised, Aelira says, her voice steady despite the roar in her ears. You said the silver was for balance. And it was, the king replies gently. Just not yours. The words land like a blade sliding between ribs. He steps closer, ignoring Cale entirely now. You were never meant to survive the ritual, he continues. Your power was bait. A spark bright enough to draw out what sleeps beneath this world. We needed it to wake. We needed you to burn. Her vision blurs. You lied. I curated, he corrects. Hope makes sacrifices cooperative. A murmur ripples through the council. She will end us all, one elder says, voice trembling with certainty. The shrine confirmed it. Another nods. Her existence invites annihilation. The silver inside her screams. Cale moves without thinking, stepping fully in front of her now, his back a solid wall. Enough? Every eye snaps to him. She's done nothing but survive what you were too afraid to face, he growls. If there's blood to be paid, it won't be hers alone. The Vampire King's smile fades. Careful, Alpha. Choose your side. Cale doesn't hesitate this time. She's not your sacrifice, he says. And she's not alone. The air goes still. For one fragile second, something in Aelira cracks open, not pain, not fear. Relief. Sharp and dangerous. He chose her. Fully. Publicly. It lasts exactly one heartbeat. Then burn with her, the king says softly. The silver fire detonates. It doesn't spill, it erupts, tearing through Aelira's veins like a floodgate ripped open. Light floods the cave, blinding, violent, alive. The stone beneath her feet fractures, glowing white-hot as ancient symbols flare awake in response. She screams, not in agony, but in overload. Memories, voices, power crash into her all at once. The shrine. The prophecy. The choice she's been running from. Kale shouts her name, reaching for her. But the heat throws him back. She drops to her knees as flames spiral up her arms, silver turning almost blue at the edges. Her heartbeat pounds so hard it feels like it might tear her apart. She can feel the world bending toward her, terrified and reverent all at once. This is what they wanted. This is what she refuses to give them. Her vision sharpens. She sees the fear now. In the council's eyes. In the vampire king's careful stillness. They didn't plan for her to wake up like this. She staggers to her feet. The fire coils tighter, begging for release, for shape, for purpose. She can let it consume her. End everything. Or run. She meets Kale's gaze across the inferno. The pain there nearly breaks her. If she stays, he dies with her. If she leaves, she becomes exactly what they fear. I'm sorry, she whispers, though she knows he'll hear it. Then she turns and runs. Or maybe she doesn't. Maybe she leaps into the dark as the fire reshapes her bones, her scream turning into something older, wilder, truer. Maybe claws tear from silver light and hit stone where her feet once stood. No one sees clearly. Only this is certain. The mask is gone. And whatever Aelira becomes next, the world has lost the right to decide for her. The world doesn't end. It breaks open. The battlefield ignites beneath a sky torn by ash and moonlight, as wolves clash with vampires, steel ringing against bone, magic screaming through the air like a living thing. The shrine stones split apart, ancient seams glowing as if something buried too long has been forced to remember how to breathe. And then she comes back. Not from the shadows. Not from fear. From the fire. Silver light tears across the ground in a wide, blazing arc, throwing bodies back like leaves in a storm. The air ignites with heat so pure it hurts to look at. At the center of it, Aelira lands hard, claws gouging stone, her form no longer bound to skin and hesitation. She is wolf now. Not fur and moonlight, but silver flame given shape. Her body burns without consuming itself, lines of glowing runes etched through her hide like veins of living metal. Her eyes blaze white-hot, ancient and awake. When she roars, the sound is not alone. Voices rise with it. Dozens. Hundreds. Ancestors. Wolves long turned to dust answer her call, their howls rolling through the valley like thunder beneath the earth. The ground cracks in response, splitting open as ruined pillars surge upward, stone remembering what it was before it was broken. The vampire king staggers back, shock finally breaking his careful mask. This wasn't, he begins. Aelira turns on him. One step silences the battlefield. I am not your sacrifice, she says, her voice layered now, hers and theirs, flame and fang braided into command. I am not your weapon. And I am done bleeding for your fear. The silver fire surges outward, not wild, not reckless, chosen. It weaves through the chaos, sparing the innocent, scorching only what threatens. Vampires recoil, shields shattering under heat they were never meant to endure. Wolves freeze, instinct bowing to something older than rank. Cale stares from the edge of the ruin, breath locked in his chest. This is her. Not the girl running through snow. Not the wounded exile in a cave. This. The ground heaves again, deeper this time, and the fire falters, not from weakness, but warning. Aelira feels it instantly. The silver inside her tightens, pulling inward instead of out. This isn't over. The earth splits wide behind the shattered shrine, revealing a darkness that drinks light instead of reflecting it. Cold rolls out, heavier than the vampire king's presence ever was. Older. Patient. A shape stirs beneath the stone. Not wolf. Not vampire. Something that remembers when neither existed. The vampire king turns slowly, horror dawning too late. That wasn't meant to wake, he whispers. Aelira steps forward, flames dimming to a controlled burn around her form. Her ancestor's voice is quiet, tense, waiting. So this is the truth, she says. This is what you fed me to. The darkness shifts, massive and unseen, pressing against the veil of the world. A pressure builds, crushing and vast, testing her will. Aelira digs her claws into the cracked stone and stands her ground. No, she says, voice steady despite the weight bearing down on her. You don't get to decide what ends us. The silver fire flares again, brighter, purer, forged by choice instead of fear. It doesn't lash out blindly. It shapes itself around her will, around the truth she's finally claimed. I choose what I burn. She lifts her head and howls, not in rage, but in defiance. The ruins answer. The ancestors answer. The land itself leans toward her, recognizing balance when it sees it. Cale feels it then, not as alpha, not as warrior, but as a man watching the world change because one woman refused to break. Whatever rises from that darkness, it won't meet a sacrifice. It will meet a queen of silver fire. And the night, at last, understands who it belongs to. The fire does not vanish. It settles. Silver embers drift through the ruined air, slow and deliberate, as if the night itself is holding its breath. The battlefield, once screaming with violence, falls into a fragile, stunned quiet. No blades rise. No spells gather. Even the wounded seem afraid to breathe too loudly. Aelira stands at the center of it all. Her silver flame dims to a living glow beneath her skin, no longer a weapon, now a presence. Power contained, not tamed. Chosen, not stolen. The ground beneath her feet is cracked and warm, ancient symbols still pulsing faintly, responding to her heartbeat. She feels them watching. Wolves. Vampires. Survivors. Not with devotion. With uncertainty. Hero or threat? The question moves through the crowd like a slow tide. She tastes it in the air, fear sharpened by awe, loyalty tangled with doubt. This is the cost no prophecy warned her about. Power saves, but it also divides. Cale steps forward, boots crunching over broken stone. Every instinct in him strains to reach her, to pull her back into something familiar. But familiarity is gone. What stands before him is not the woman he once shielded with his body. It's the woman who no longer needs shielding. Aelira, he says, her name rough with everything he can't afford to feel out loud. She turns to him. For a breathless moment, the silver fades from her eyes, and he sees her. Raw. Exposed. Still carrying every scar that brought her here. The power didn't erase her fear. It just gave her the strength to stand inside it. I didn't ask for this, she says quietly. But I won't pretend I regret it. Cale nods once. No arguments. No commands. Just choice. Behind them, the darkness beneath the ruins stirs again, not rising, not retreating. Waiting. A reminder that the war isn't over. That what sleeps below the world has noticed her. The Vampire King breaks the silence with a single, careful step backward. His crown is cracked. His confidence is not. You've changed the balance, he says. They will come for you now. Aelira doesn't look at him. Let them, she answers. The words ripple outward, carried by stone and ash and memory. Some wolves lower their heads, not in submission, but in recognition. Others hesitate, caught between old laws and new fire. Vampires withdraw into shadow, recalculating a world that no longer bends the way it used to. Aelira exhales slowly. Power hums inside her, heavy, alive, demanding intention. She realizes then that this is only the beginning. That choosing herself did not end the cost. It only named it. Cale reaches her side at last, close enough that she can feel the warmth of him through the fading heat. He doesn't touch her. Not yet. Respect matters now more than ever. Whatever they decide, he murmurs, I choose you. Her throat tightens. She doesn't answer with words. She leans into him just enough for the world to see. And the world watches. Some with hope. Some with fear. All with understanding that nothing will ever be the same again. The moon slips free of the clouds, bathing the ruins in pale light. Silver meets silver. Flame meets night. Somewhere beneath their feet, something ancient shifts its weight and smiles in the dark. The question hangs unanswered in the stillness. Is she salvation? Or the beginning of the end? And now, listener. If this story lit something inside you, if her defiance stirred your blood, if her choice made your heart race, subscribe to Moonbound Werewolf Romance Stories. Because here, we don't whisper legends. We tell tales that burn. The first hint of dawn brushes the horizon with grey and violet, softening the silver flame still clinging to Aelira's skin. For a heartbeat, the world seems to breathe with her. The wind carries the scent of ash and pine, distant snow melting into rivulets that trickle over fractured stone. Even the ruins are quiet now, holding the memory of fire like a scar. Cale stands beside her, silent, watching the first shafts of light touch the jagged peaks. There is relief in his stance, but also a tension that refuses to leave. The cave, the shrine, the battlefield, they are behind them, but the weight of what comes next presses forward like a living thing. Aelira feels it first, a subtle vibration beneath her feet, a tremor that doesn't belong to the crumbling stones. Not the earth. Something older. Something patient. Something that has been waiting, unseen, for the silver flame to call it awake. Her eyes narrow, pupils sharpening to slits as instinct rises. Cale notices, his own shoulders tensing. He reaches for her hand, not to stop her, but to anchor himself to the human beside the power he can barely comprehend. And then the shadow moves. Not across the ground. Not in the air. It's inside the tremor itself, twisting, laughing. A low, hollow sound, distant and intimate at once. It echoes through the mountains, curling around the peaks and valleys like smoke. She is not the only one, the voice whispers. Aelira's stomach knots. Power flares inside her again, but this time it is cautious, controlled. Not ready to leap forward, but aware that the world is larger than the ruins behind her, that the war is far from over, and that destiny is not a path she walks alone. Cale swallows hard. What is that? His voice is rough with awe and fear. She doesn't answer immediately. The tremor pulses under her feet again, faint but insistent, like a heartbeat of something sleeping just beneath the crust of the earth. She knows, without words, that whatever comes will test everything she has learned about herself, about fire, about survival, about choice. Her gaze drifts to the horizon where light meets shadow. Somewhere beyond the mountains, past ruined temples and shattered forests, something waits. Something old. Something that even the vampire king did not, or could not, warn her about. The silence stretches. It hums with tension. Even the surviving wolves and vampires at the edge of the ruins feel it. They do not move, as if acknowledging that the story is not theirs to finish. Cale tightens his grip on her hand. Whatever it is, we face it together, he says, but his words lack certainty. They are a vow, but also a recognition of the unknown. Aelira draws in a breath, silver flame flickering along her veins like a promise. Then we prepare, she says, voice steady but low. And we decide who we are before the world decides for us. The wind shifts. The tremor dies back. For a moment, the morning seems peaceful, fragile, like a pause between storms. But the shadow lingers in her mind, and in the vibration of the earth, and in the echo of that single, chilling laugh. She is not the only one. The sky lightens. Pale and delicate at first, then sharper. The mountains, the ruins, the battlefield, they all seem to lean toward that whisper, listening. And then, darkness. It folds in around the edges of the world, swallowing the ruins, swallowing the dawn, leaving only the echo of that shadowed laugh and the tremor beneath the earth. Cale and Aelira stand at the edge of the awakening world, eyes locked on the horizon, hearts pounding with the knowledge that nothing they fought for will stay safe for long. And somewhere in that silence, the air vibrates with promise and dread. The screen of night fades. But the story does not end here. Because the world has other players. Other fires to ignite. Other silver flames waiting to awaken. And Aelira, burning, defiant, alive, will face them. Fade to black,